Again, welcome to activity 2.1. You should be on page 16 and you should be taking notes. So this is 2 of 6. And again, they don't go in order. So if you look off to the left, find animal fossils, which happens to be the top one. So let's explain the phenomenon. And again, this is looking at evidence that Wagner used to support his idea of continental drift. So animal fossils. Well, the Mesosaurus is an extinct reptile similar to a lizard. Scientists think that this animal lived about 265 million years ago. Now, fossil evidence tells us that the Mesosaurus was approximately 3 feet long. It had fingers and toes that were webbed, so they looked more like paddles than hands and feet. These powerful paddles were useful for chasing fish and other aquatic animals. One unique feature of this reptile is that it lived on land, but returned to fresh water, such as lakes and rivers. And this is huge. So it lived on land, but it returned to fresh water. So remember that. The Mesosaurus was an ancestor of present-day amphibians. Since the Mesosaurus could breathe through nostrils on the top of its skull, scientists think it fed on prey similar to that of a crocodile. Well, during the 1800s, scientists discovered fossils of the Mesosaurus in only 2 regions, South America and parts of southern Africa. Well, this is interesting to scientists because these 2 regions are separated by this huge land, or not land, but this huge body of water called the Atlantic Ocean. So let me ask you this. Is the Atlantic Ocean, is it salt water or is it fresh water? If you said the Atlantic Ocean is salt water, you're correct. But what was the Mesosaurus? The Mesosaurus was a fresh water. It returned to fresh water. So scientists who study these fossils know that this Mesosaurus could not swim across a whole ocean of salt water. So how did it get on separate sides of the Atlantic Ocean? So that's the Mesosaurus part of the phenomenon. So how does it help me understand how the Earth and the distance pass? Well, if this Mesosaurus can't swim across the oceans, well, maybe it didn't have to swim across the oceans. If Wagner is correct and Pangea existed, then South America and Africa would have been connected, so which would make sense. It didn't have to swim across the ocean. There was no ocean. Now, paleontologists are scientists who study fossils. They've also found evidence of another animal that lived 250 million years ago. This animal is known as the Listosaurus. The Listosaurus was a large lizard about the size of a pig. It lived on land and, similar to the Mesosaurus, has only been found in certain places on the Earth. According to paleontologists, these reptiles lived in Africa, India, Antarctica. Okay. So first of all, let's look. Antarctica. Can you imagine a reptile living in cold and icy Antarctica? There's very few things live in Antarctica. But is a reptile going to be able to live there? No. Now, let me ask you this. Again, if it was found in Africa, if it was found in India and Antarctica, again, there's oceans separating these places. You know, especially Africa to Antarctica is a little ways away. And I suppose you could go from Africa and you could go all the way around to India. But huge areas. Why isn't it found everywhere in between if it truly walked on land from Africa to India? So again, how does this help us make sense of the Earth in a distant past? Well, again, if Wagner's Pangea existed, and you guys created Pangea in class, you saw that those 3 continents, or India is a subcontinent, but if those 3 land masses were once together, the Listosaurus did not have to swim across an ocean. It didn't have to walk around the entire continent of Africa and get over to India. If they were all connected, it could have been living in a larger area, but an area that was all land. And then it broke apart and it separated.